Hello, everyone. Welcome to another 2023 FallDocs screening. My name is Armando Zamudio, and I am the Public Programs and Events Coordinator here at IDA. For our blind and low vision attendees, I'm going to identify myself. I am a light-skinned Mexican-American wearing a green sweater, glasses, messy hair, and sitting in front of a white wall. Thank you to our media sponsor, KCRW, for sponsoring our 2023 FallDocs. This evening, we'll have a conversation between film journalist Matt Carey, director Agnia Galdonova, producer Igor Mayakotin, whose film Queendom premiered at Sundance 2023. To see more amazing films like this, please visit www.documentary.org/FallDocs. Now, before we get started, I would like to offer a brief land acknowledgement. We recognize the Gabrielino Tongva as the past, present, and future caretakers of the land, water, and cultural resources and the unceded territory of Los Angeles. Thank you so much to Andrea Lust for interpreting this discussion. And with that, I will pass it on to Matt. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Matt Carey, documentary editor at Deadline.com. For our blind and visually impaired attendees, I'll describe myself. I'm a white male. I'm wearing a pork pie style hat with a red wall backdrop. I have glasses and a light beard. And it is my great pleasure to welcome the filmmakers of Queendom. We have with us director Agnia Galdonova and the producer Igor Mayakotin. Welcome so much to you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Agnia Galdonova. I'm a white Asian woman wearing a brown shirt, and I'm sitting in the room, and behind me there's a window.
Hi, everyone. My name is Igor Mayakotin, and I'm a white male with black hair, black t-shirt, and sitting in a living room.
Thank you. Agnia, tell us how you initially met Gena. This was working on what was to be a somewhat larger project, but then things changed when you met Gena.
Yes, exactly. When everything was starting, I was doing my research for docuseries. The idea was to go in some kind of like not evident hidden places all over Russia where you would not even imagine that the drag culture exists. And I was almost at the end of my research. I had most of the protagonists when we met with Gena. And almost right after this meeting, I decided to change the project and to do a feature about her solo. So that's how we met, and it was in St. Petersburg. I'm from St. Petersburg, and another luck was that Gena was living right across my mother's house. So we didn't have to do much effort to meet. So we had time to hang out, and that was the start to it. Because in the beginning, we became kind of friends rather than director protagonist, and only after that we started shooting.
Igor, it's remarkable that you happen to be from Magadan. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but this very wintry town in Siberia where Gena also is from.
Yeah, it was a coincidence. A friend of ours connected Agnia and I at one point, and Agnia you were already filming, you've already filmed a bunch of footage, and you've had a sizzle ready clip. And I saw that clip and I was watching it and I was like, this is incredible characters, cinematography is beautiful, but also this is my hometown. And I was just blown away by that, because you don't usually meet people from that place. It's really far away. So I was very surprised to see that it takes place in my hometown and Gena's hometown.
Yes, and I gathered that we actually see your apartment building in that early footage of of the town, which of course beautifully sets the scene. And but Igor, I wonder, how would you describe the town? What is it like to live there?
It's very isolated, and it's right across Alaska, up north from China and Japan. And it's got this really dark past of gulag camps. So I think in Russia it's known as this place where sort of like criminals come from there, or it's very dark. But I really loved it. On the one hand, it's very beautiful, the nature is gorgeous. On the other hand, it's very sort of conservative, and it's truly remarkable that someone like Gena was so courageous at the early age to be able to just come out in the streets, come out in the supermarket in front of people, and just show at that early age who she is and not be afraid. So I think that's really captivating. But in terms of the town, it's very I was also bullied a lot there, right? There's like people in the street and random people would bully me, so I would never tell people that I'm gay. So seeing someone like Gena do that is very inspiring.
Oh, it's extraordinary, the bravery. It's kind of breathtaking. And this is kind of hinted at, but Agnia, for you or Igor, what was it like in the past, say, I don't know, 20 years ago, perhaps, for LGBTQ people in Russia? And why has it been changing? Obviously, the laws are more severe. It's the anti-gay atmosphere, as I understand, is really intensified there.
Well, the only thing I can say is that when I was in university, it was way more tolerant and way more open. And I just met a friend who came for the screening in Zurich that we actually spent this time together back in the days. And we remember that, we could walk on the street in whatever you want, like in latex or I don't know, however you like. And today is absolutely impossible, even in the big cities like Moscow or St. Petersburg, because the propaganda makes it so clear for a majority, of people that it's not acceptable to look like that, and it's a very sad situation actually right now.
And one early in the film, one of Gena's friends, I believe it's a friend of hers, said that, in our DNA, we have this subservience. And, I think for students of Russia, if you will, that, would probably agree with that they're just culturally, it's almost always been an authoritarian state going back to the time of the czars, and a real emphasis on fealty to the state, and to do anything nonconformist is somehow to attack the state or to violate some sort of group norm. I'm not even sure how to put it. But I guess that wasn't a question exactly, but I'm curious about that element of incredible conformity, really, the pressure people are under.
Well, it's always been there, I have to say. It's not like we lived. I mean, I had my, let's say, piece of freedom when I was younger, because it was not that bad before. But in the same time, you always felt that you cannot cross a certain border with what you're doing. So yeah, it's always been there, and it is in our DNAs. And it's Jena's aunt who is saying this in the film. I think she meant more about the place, because Magadan is it's a very special place. It's where all the concentration camps were built during the Stalin time, and there are a lot of people died, and building railways or whatever. So I think she meant this, but it can be addressed to the whole country, because we all carry this weight of the past.
It's really upsetting for the audience and to see the way that Gena is treated, and to go out, well, really not necessarily in drag, but say wearing, there's the whole discussion of going out in shorts. And her grandfather is like, no, you can't go out in shorts. You can't show your tattoos. But Igor, I wonder for you, to witness that, of your heart must be pounding to think of what may happen to Gena anytime she steps out in public.
Oh yeah, definitely. Every time, filming. I think that was also, I wasn't present when we were filming, but every shoot we had to prepare rigorously in terms of safety, first of all, for Gena, but also for the crew. So that was, the priority. And seeing Gena just being so courageous out in the public, it was, nerve-wracking, because I would never be able to do that growing up. When I was growing up in Russia, in Magadan, I never met anyone who was openly gay, and I never saw anything on TV or in film that would portray queer characters. So I didn't even know myself that I was gay, right? Because I didn't really, there's no like a lighthouse or this light that could tell me, that guide me and tell me, okay, this is fine, you could be that, nothing wrong with you. So whenever I had this attraction toward men, I would always think, oh, it's just an attraction, I'm gonna have a wife and kids and blah 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 blah. So it never even crossed my mind, and because of that, I feel like I was very shy, and a lot of opportunities slipped just in front of me because I just didn't see them, because it was not an option to see those opportunities. And I think Gena, she was growing up in a bit of a different environment. She was growing up, even though she didn't have a big audience in Magadan, she had a big audience online. And I think those people really provided that safe space for her to really shine her true colors. But I would never be able to do that in Magadan. But then if I met someone like Gena, probably I would have been like, oh, that's totally fine. It's okay, to be gay. It's okay to be this, it's okay to be that. And I probably would have had a different childhood.
And Agnia, I think, is sort of a thumbnail description. A lot of people describing Gena who maybe haven't seen the film would say, oh, it's a film about a drag queen. And so, at least in the US, that evokes certain images or thoughts of what a drag queen is. I would describe Gena as a performance artist who incorporates certain elements that question gender. But so Gena this is not a camp performance. This is not what often people think of as drag. Gena, to me, is an absolutely extraordinary artist.
Thank you for saying that, because it's very important for all of us. Yes, she started as a drag queen when we met. She was still doing kind of, let's say, regular drag queen dressing up. But I was very lucky as a filmmaker to witness this change, and I don't know, the growth as an artist, because she evolved from this first way of expressing herself into something way bigger and deeper. And for sure, she's an artist, and not only performance artist, all kind of. Now being in Paris, she's exploring new things and redefining again her art. So I think she can be many things, but she is an artist. because she has a very unique way to see the world and to reflect on her own fears and problems, but also to kind of put through what's happening in the world, and to, you know, in a form of performance so far, to show us her pain and or her joy.
Yes, and Igor, I thought at times that she's almost like a silent movie star, in the sense that her face is so expressive, even with kind of an impassive expression, ostensibly, but just so riveting. Like the way the silent movie star could hold the screen, of course, without dialogue.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what she does now, and especially she did before when she was in Russia. Right? She wouldn't really talk to people, but just her presence is just so powerful that I think that is a sort of a stronger way to show people that a different reality is possible. There's a different possibility for you as a person, for this world, and that there's nothing wrong about it and nothing dangerous about it. And she was, as you can see in the film, she was very patient. And I think I don't know, I don't want to speak for her, but I think, you know, she really gets into this zone like a true artist, true performance artist. And I think, yeah, every time she would go out in the street, it's a form of art. And I think every time is different and it's very special. And I think, you know, the people who are watching it, they're also the participants, right? They're also a part of that art performance that is actually hopefully, you know, changes the way they see not just queer people, but also, you know, artists.
Oh, it's truly exceptional. And Agnia, in terms of the creative approach to the film, it's in many respects a verite style, and yet there are sort of interspersed moments of what I would call actual performance. And you sort of signal this with music, that we've gone into kind of another zone. There's this incredible section, for instance, where Gena is kind of going through a pool of mud or something. But I wonder if you could talk about incorporating those into the narrative.
Well, there was no such idea in the beginning, because I came from the documentary school, which is very strict with rules and doesn't allow you to manipulate the viewer. But in the same time, I realized that this is something that we cannot avoid, because the first performance that we accidentally shot was where Gena is on a kind of Mars-like surface with the mask with black horns. And we were just doing observation as usual, because she was doing this performance for another like TV channel or something. And then we almost were like out of the light, and we decided to try, because it was so magnificent, and so we decided to try to do something else. And we did this first slow motion performance, and when I saw it on editing, I was like, wow, this is treasure. So from there we decided to, you know, to try more, and it was always Gena's ideas, but the execution was that kind of collaboration, and it worked well. In a way, it's some kind of going to subconscious of Gena's mind, and maybe this is Queendom, where she can feel free and safe to express herself. Probably.
That's so interesting to hear you describe it that way. Igor, maybe I could ask, I'm curious if you know what happened to Gena's parents. She's kind of described as technically an orphan. Is there anything that you feel comfortable saying about that or know about that?
Well, I mean, what we know is that her grandparents really brought her up, and they were those parental figures because parents were not really couldn't be present when Gena was growing up. So her grandmother and her grandfather were the ones who were really these parental figures, bringing her up, which was very difficult for them, and you can see it in the film. But at the same time, you can see that unconditional love of the family, even people like them from a totally different time and space, are still willing to reach out and try to show their love to Gena. All we know about the grandparents now, unfortunately, the grandmother passed away shortly after Gena left Russia, but her grandfather is still in Magadan.
And I think you've captured one of the most complex and beautiful relationships, parental relationships, if you will, ever that I have ever seen in a documentary film. It is so moving because, of course, you see this almost endless conflict between them and Gena's longing for a degree of acceptance, or just to not have particularly her grandfather nagging at her. And yet you do, as Igor was saying, you do feel the love, true love between them all. It's so touching.
Yes, it is. I think it's a very universal relationship because now the film traveled a lot, and I heard so many comments, from different countries: Bulgaria, Greece, South Korea. Everyone can relate because it's a very classic generation gap. But in the same time, this gap is filled with love. So, yeah, I even myself, I can relate to this type of relationship between me and my mother, because she, for many years, could not understand what I'm doing and how I'm supposed to make money and live my life. So I think it's, very universal. I had a beautiful moment recently. We were in South Korea, and there was in the audience, there was a man, an old Korean man. So when they opened questions from the public, he was the first one to raise an arm, and he said, well, it's not the question, it's just what I want to say. It's that it was very painful but beautiful to watch the film, because I feel that I'm the grandfather of Gena. And for me, it was such an amazing sign. That's why you actually do movies, that maybe one old Korean man would come and watch it and change his mind.
Was this at Busan?
It was, it's called DMZ, Documentary Film Festival.
DMZ. Right. Wow. You capture some really quite stunning footage of these protests in Moscow. Early on, we see what it seems to be a kind of anti-Putin protest. And then there's this very dramatic protest against, kind of right after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and a protest against that. I mean, this is the sort of footage that really is not seen in the West. Gena was arrested there, and Agnia, you also were arrested in the midst of this.
Yes.
And spent the night in jail, as I understand it.
Well, the first time, the protest which we shot, where Gena is wearing the Russian flag
okay.
costume, I was sure we're gonna get arrested, and somehow we were lucky to kind of miss this, I don't know, moment when everybody started to get arrested. But the second time, I was sure that it's going to happen. It was clear from the beginning, and so we were trying to, as Igor said before, to find ways to make it as safe as possible. So, for example, we decided that Gena is not going to put the barbed wire up till an elbow, because that's how they grab you when they arrest you. Because if you harm a policeman, it's completely another story. You can get way bigger sentence. So, and then also we decided that our cinematographer is going to be on roller skaters in order to escape when we're gonna.
Oh, that's clever. That was very smart.
Yeah, and it worked out. The moment when Gena was stopped by police, I made everything to be arrested as well, to be in the same car with her. And I give a sign to our cinematographer just to take off. Otherwise, they would take him as well, and we would lose this footage. So yes, you need to be inventive.
Igor, what do you think would have happened to Gena had she stayed in Russia?
It's a very difficult question to answer because the situation in Russia is changing every day, and you don't really know what to expect. So everyone prepares for the worst. But since Gena left Russia, the Russian government adopted a few horrible, dangerous laws where they ban LGBT propaganda among everyone. Before that, it was just among minors. Now it's among all people. So, from movies to, holding hands in public, that could be considered propaganda, right? And especially they're going after trans people, which was more or less fine before. Now it's really going to be really hard for them to find the necessary medicine, drugs, and to do the surgeries, and just to be out in public. And even people who have children, same-sex couples who have children, being in that kind of relationship, you're sort of imposing this propaganda on your own kids. So they could even take your kids. You can't adopt kids anymore. And what Gena was doing, I don't know if anyone else is doing something like that right now in Russia, because it's just extremely dangerous. Especially, Gena protesting the war, which is right now the harshest punishment that you can get. Even people who would come out in the streets with an empty sign, it would just blank sign near Kremlin, they would get arrested. And there's nothing written there, and they would get arrested. So imagine Gena coming out in her own in the costumes that she makes and the statements that she does by doing that. That would be extremely dangerous. So I don't even want to think what would have happened to her. That was the only option for her to be safe, is to leave Russia.
Agnia, you've talked a little bit about how Gena is doing now, living in Paris. What are your hopes for her? She's, I think, 24 now, so very young, and has a lot of life ahead of her.
Yeah, well, I am sure that she's going to be well, because it was a very difficult decision for her to make when we start to speak about where to go, because it was clear that she has to leave Russia, but there's not that many options with Russian passports. So all the places like Armenia or Georgia are not the best place as well for a queer person. And I proposed her to try to go to France, and she never traveled abroad before, so it was very scary. But now it's, what is it, almost a year and a half she's there, and I'm sure she's in the right place. She just walked for Paris Fashion Week. She had a beautiful performance for Arte, and she started to have friends. She started to get a bit of money. She got all papers sorted out. So I'm sure she will find her way. And also the thing that she's so young and already went that far because she's very brave, will bring her in more. I mean, there is the whole world in front of her now, and I'm sure she's gonna take it all.
And this has had film, and perhaps even if you hadn't made this film, you know, situation in Russia has had such an impact on both of you. Igor, you're now living in Provincetown on Cape Cod in Massachusetts. And do you sort of think of yourself as being in exile, or?
Well, I was not able to leave this country for 8 years. So, I sort of just, I don't know if I could, if I'm in exile or not. Probably because I cannot return back to Russia, at this moment, right? I could possibly feel myself like that, but I think at this point, any artist who is really vocal about what's going on in the country is in exile. You could be, you might, if you're in Russia and you have stuff to say, you have things to say, right? But you cannot, because they would just, your mouth is shut because of the government, right? They do that. Censorship is so high right now, and all the independent media has been banned. So even if in your own country, you could feel like you're in exile because you cannot say things that you want to say. But I think it's still important, at least for me, it's still important to do the work, this kind of work. And obviously it's really important for us, for people in Russia and as well as in neighboring countries, especially countries where there are harsh anti-LGBT laws, for people to see this film. And hopefully that people will feel the courage that Gena shows through the screen.
And Agnia, just quickly, you'll be taking the film to IDFA in November. What are distribution plans, or do you have any update about that for the film going forward?
Yes. And maybe I let Igor speak about it.
Okay.
We're working with wonderful people. We're working with Dog Wolf on the international side, and we're working with Submarine and UTA on the American side. We're still looking for distribution in the US, but we've got some news coming out in the rest of the world soon. Hopefully we'll be able to make it public. And we will have a theatrical distribution in the UK later this year, which we're very excited about.
Well, that's wonderful news. It's an extraordinary film. It is Queendom, and we have been joined by the director, Agnia Galdanova. I think I did a better job of pronouncing your name this time, and by producer Igor Mayakotin. Thank you so much for being part of the IDA's FallDocs series.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you, IDA.